Why was Bitcoin for criminals? You've probably heard this idea floating around in the media. Bitcoin was mainly used by criminals. It was a narrative that stuck, especially among people who were more familiar with traditional money and those who were just starting, trying to learn about Bitcoin, sort of like preventing them from approaching Bitcoin. Though, anyway, why did this idea take hold about Bitcoin is for criminal? Let's break it down. First, let's think about the barter system. I assume you haven't heard of this term for a while now. Now, with barter system, people traded the goods directly without using money or currency. In that system, there was no stable medium of exchange, meaning the value of the product is inconsistent, so both parties need to face and bear a lot of risk. For example, if you traded a cow for some grain, you might later realize the grain wasn't worth as much as you thought so, or the cow might lose value over time. This made bartering a risky and inefficient way to trade. Over time, people moved to using money or fiat currency because it was a safer and more reliable way to exchange value. It reduced the risk of losing out in a trade. Now, let's apply this idea to Bitcoin. In its early days, Bitcoin was like a modern version of the barter system. It didn't have the stability or backing of traditional money. Bitcoin's value could swing wildly, for I assume you've already noticed it on the chart that swinging up and tanking over 10% in few minutes is possible too, and there was no government or central authority to guarantee its value. For most people, Bitcoin a risky choice for everyday transactions for average individual, yet for criminals, the lack of stability wasn't their biggest concern. What mattered more to them was able to avoid detection by authorities. Here's where the logic gets interesting. Using fiat currency is easy to track. Governments and banks can monitor transactions, freeze accounts, and crack down on illegal activities. For criminals, this makes fiat currency expensive to use in terms of risk. As every transaction with fiat increases, their chances of getting caught increases as well. So, if there's an alternative option that's harder to trace, like Bitcoin for example, would be more preferred, and because of this, it contributes a volume of transaction in the market, made Bitcoin another available payment option for the people. Though even the Bitcoin's value was unpredictable, the reduced risk of being caught made it worth the trade-off for criminals. This is why Bitcoin naturally became one of the best options for criminal funding in its early days. It wasn't that Bitcoin was designed for criminals, but its features like anonymous and decentralization made it a useful tool for people who wanted to avoid the traditional financial system. As time progresses, the adoptions of Bitcoin increases. The narrative has shifted, especially after Elon Musk voiced up, accepting Bitcoin as a payment to purchase his Tesla. That further increases the adoptions from the mass. And now, Bitcoin is no longer seen as just a tool for criminals anymore, but somewhat a legitimate asset that anyone can hold, and its reputation has evolved alongside its growing adoption by mainstream institutions and individuals. So, while it's true that Bitcoin was once associated with criminal activity, it is still true that Bitcoin is the most favorite use case for transacting by the criminals, especially it gained more popularity now.